on the first visit of all the commissioners of the European Union to India, I am today joined by one of the most significant participants in the entire conversation from the Indian point of view, the Commissioner for Defense, Mr. Andrius. Mr. Andrius, welcome to NDTV. Let me begin by asking you that since this is your maiden visit as a group, all of you are here, how successful do you think your meetings, bilateral, the meeting of your president with our Prime Minister, how successful have they been? Would you call it a significant step forward?
Well, really, that is the first meeting, the first visit of all of our commission, or how we call College of Commission, to India, which really symbolizes significance what both Commission President and all of us were putting into our strategic relations with India. Well, I am Commissioner not only for Defense, also Commissioner for Space. I have two, double hats. And I was always repeating during those 2 days that, in my view, 21st century will be, first of all, century of space and century of India. Because of Indian development, and significance and geopolitical role and economical role which India is playing and will play till the end of the century, really our relationship with India, with the two countries, European Union is of course organization, but two countries, two organizations, based on the same values. India is, the biggest democracy worldwide. We are, living with the same values of democracy, of human rights, and things like that. And that makes our cooperation, our strategic partnership, very important. And during those 2 days, me personally had several very important meetings with State Secretary on Defense, Minister on Space, ISRO chairman, and also with the business communities, both in space and in defense. And I absolutely agree what Commission President Ursula von der Leyen yesterday have said, that there is no time to put any kind of limits in our future cooperation between of European Union and India. So that is our let's say, vision, our ambition to develop in all the different areas, very strong, practical and ambitious relationship. And that is, there are a lot of possibilities which we discussed during yesterday. For example, we agreed to have high-level strategic space dialogue. We agreed also that our talks for free trade agreement should be finished as quickly as possible, and ministers and commissioners who are responsible, they promised even almost during next months to conclude, but at least till the end of the year, that is our vision. Also, this year is important that so-called new roadmap for strategic partnership should be discussed and agreed in between of Indian government and our Commission. And the last point, very important also related with defense and security, Commission President offered for us to develop so-called strategic pact on defense and security, like European Union has the same with, for example, with Japan and with South Korea. So that is what we see. From one side, India really is playing a very important role globally. From another side, India is playing most important role in this region, Indo-Pacific, which is also very important for us, for Europeans, because that is where a lot of our trade and economical relations are going into.
Commissioner, I'm glad that you bring me to the topic of Indo-Pacific and you bring me to the topic of security. Indo-Pacific is something where European Union and India have been cooperating, and there have been various steps. One can call them nano steps, but steps have been taken. Do you think that that structure of security cooperation in Indo-Pacific needs to be formalized and taken to the next level, where a joint strategy can be put in place in a codified manner, so to say?
Well, I need to immediately declare that this is not directly my portfolio, but if you are asking me, my personal opinion, I would be very much, in favor of that, of really strengthening our relationship in bringing security into Indo-Pacific region, both, maritime and whatever else is needed. And here really we have good experience, successful experience. And we need to continue that experience. And when Commission President proposed to have so-called strategic pact on security and defense, so I think that it should cover also our joint activities in Indo-Pacific region.
And when you talk about the security pact to the level that you have with the Japanese or the South Koreans, what do you think it would entail from an Indian perspective? Would it entail joint operations? Would it entail effective mobility? Would it entail a sort of mutual participation in exercises, not just the exercises, but probably at some point in time, real situations?
Well, we can look into what is our experience, in relations with Japan or South Korea. So definitely, we are able to organize, joint exercises. We can share data, and that is again where, for example, space is coming into, space activities are coming into place, and now we have, good cooperation with India on sharing the data from European system Copernicus. We are now establishing a new system, IRIS Square, which is for secure satellite communication, which again, we're offering even now. It will have two sides, commercial and governmental. So we are offering, for India to look into possibility to take, participation in this commercial side of data. We have Galileo, which is the best system worldwide, on positioning. So again, and we're looking into next stages. Where, well, I stopped here on space, but space really is playing very crucial, and I'm saying that we shall face during 21st century real revolution of space. And it's dual use. It has a lot of influence on how things are developing in civilian life, but also very, very important on security and defense side. And here, again, we have good possibilities to establish a higher level of our cooperation in between of institutions, in between of those institutions which are taking care about security, to share the data and so on and so on. So that's, as Commission President have said, there are no limits for our cooperation.
And I'm again happy that we come to the topic of space, where you said that this is going to be the century of India and century of space. What do you think in terms of, as you said, that European Union has some of the very state-of-the-art tech in as far as space and space exploration and space technology is concerned. India's obviously attempt would be, and you met the ISRO chairman, you said India's attempt would be that some of that technology that has been, due to various instances in the past, wrongfully denied to India, is allowed to be accessed. Can the European Union help India there?
Well, definitely, again, if we have an agreement to have high-level space dialogue, so that space dialogue would be also about some of those issues which till now were not resolved. So I don't know maybe all the details where the problems, but really we know good experience how India is using some data which we are providing from so-called Earth observation system Copernicus, and it can be even increased some of those possibilities. Second, definitely, we see not only what we have now and what we shall have, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, like some kind of systems which we are now developing, I mentioned Iris Square, but also looking into the longer-term future. Let's say next decades. So from one side, there are very clearly systems which we need to develop, and we are planning to develop on European side, for example, for intelligence data, much more precise, which are needed for security and defense needs. And here we can look into all the different possibilities for cooperation in that area. Second, of course, if you look, and I was very much impressed by ambitious space program announced by Prime Minister Modi, and we talked about that with the plans to land on the moon in 2040. To have space station somewhere in middle of 2030, and then your docking achievements recently that you managed to dock satellites in space, becoming really very much advanced as technological country. Those things are again, as I said, impressive, and we can just I said why I was saying that 21st century will be of space. Because we can see really that a real revolution is happening in space, both from technological point of view, from business point of view, and from new areas, new spaces in space, we can call so. We can just imagine what is coming during next decades. Definitely there will be exploration of moon with permanent, perhaps, establishment of colonies, in moon, with mining and whatever. We can just read perhaps science fiction and think what is coming. We can expect that there will be some kind of manufacturing in space. We can expect that there will be again energy production in space, and everything that will open new and new possibilities for cooperation, for joint projects. And I would be very happy to see that in some specific projects, without big delays, we should agree with India on having joint development of such kind of project, because usually that is a very strong symbol that countries have a really strategic partnership in all other areas. If you are able to show that in space you are able to do something significant, it means that you are really good and strong partners.
Commissioner, again, we talk about the strategy, and we talk about something that the Prime Minister and the President of the European Union both have emphasized upon repeatedly, including this summit-level talk, which is the rule-based order and protecting it. But unfortunately, we are also seeing that at this moment where we are, this is probably the biggest transgression of that rules-based order that we have seen in the recent times. How do you see that India and European Union can probably collaborate and ensure that such transgressions either do not happen, or if they happen, are contained?
Well, that is question which we all are, perhaps are very much concerned. Europe is facing big threats from what Russia is doing in Ukraine, and intelligence services, European intelligence services, are saying that Russia can be ready for next aggression against even EU member states or NATO member states. So that is what, and you know much better, Indo-Pacific region, what threats are here. And in my view, countries which are based on the same principles of democracy, of rule of law, international law and international order, based on very clear principles of sovereignty and so on, non-aggression, they should unite and be much more proactive, not allowing either single countries, usually authoritarian countries, becoming and testing us with any kind of aggression, or even not allowing to appear some kind of authoritarian aggressive axis, like we see, especially when we are concerned about Russian behavior. We see Russia, Iran, North Korea and China somewhere, not far away. So that is where we need to be very clear. We cannot allow anybody to behave in aggressive way, not, stopped by international democratic community.
And Commissioner, also tell me this, that when we talk of the defense cooperation between the two countries, again, one of India's principal need is technology transfer. We have been struggling for years now, despite buying some of the biggest platforms from the West, with technology transfer. Technology transfers can be tricky, but that process has now seems to begin under Mr. Modi's leadership. We have seen some of the big key defense manufacturers coming and establishing their base. As far as they're partnering with the Indian partners, look, we are a country where we have never been accused of any IPR theft. We have never been accused of any patent stealing. So we are kind of very reliable partners in that. So you think, that going forward that all these Western defense companies, European Union companies, can partner with their Indian partners and establish some sort of joint manufacturing here, which India very, very keenly wants, and Indian defense forces very keenly want?
Again, I can say, why not, Well, of course, this is sensitive, and all that protection of intellectual, property rights usually is not so easy as we are saying, But, again, I can repeat, first of all, what Commission President have said, that there should be no limits in our partnership. So even from that point of view. Second, at least I can talk about the needs of defense needs of European Union, where now we are preparing, in 2 weeks' time, we shall publish so-called white paper on European defense, the first one on European level, where we are looking into those, challenges and threats which we are talking about, that Russia can test us, in few years' time. Russia pushed all their economy on so-called war economy, railways, and they are producing a lot of weapons which are used, in Ukraine, but also they are stockpiling, and we are preparing for something new. So we are, in our white paper, we are very clearly speaking about what gaps in our defense capabilities we have on European Union side, and how we need to ramp up our defense production in a very urgent way, what I call big bang approach, not incremental approach, with enough of financial resources and enough of production facilities, in order really to fill those gaps which we know from NATO evaluations very clearly. In that way, really, we need to look also how those gaps should be filled, by whatever means we can implement, including, for example, joint ventures, joint projects. India has, really very well-known defense industry. You have a lot of skilled people. The production cost in India is, lower than it is in Europe. So why not to look for, beneficial cooperation?
And Mr. Trump is in any case accusing EU of not spending enough on the security, NATO and EU.
Well, we are grateful that President Trump speaks, about the need to spend up to 5%. I would remind that the United States now are spending 3.5%. In the European Union, we have countries also who are spending, very similar. Of course, some countries are not spending so much, but we shall spend much more of our money for defense, not because of Trump, but because of Putin, which is threatening really our security, and that is what we consider as our top priority for time being.
Mr. Andrius, I would want you to, you have been twice the head of a state. I would want you to don that hat for a moment, and I would want you to consider as to what happened yesterday in the White House between President Zelensky and President Trump. How do you see that? I mean, surely I mean, that's certainly not was a very pleasant moment, but how do you?
Well, of course, that was totally, difficult to understand and unacceptable, way of receiving president from another country which is fighting for their survival. And that is, what I can say. A lot of European leaders have shown immediately, very clear reaction, including Commission President, with very clear message to President Zelensky and to Ukrainian nation that they will not stay alone. What is the strategy of President Trump and his team, for us is still, not very clear. And we started to get some kind of strange messages, a few weeks ago during Munich conference, with this famous, speech of Vice President G.D. Vance, and similar things. For us also is, well, we are, all of us, of course, we're standing for peace in Ukraine. And that is, Ukrainians really deserve peace, and they are those who has the strongest wish to have peace. But, just peace can be achieved only through what we call formula peace through strength. And that formula was repeated also by Americans till now, which means that, first of all, we need to bring, strength to Ukrainians, military strength, financial strength, and so on, in order to really to show to Putin that he will not achieve anything in Ukraine. Putin started the war, Putin started aggression, 3 years of the war is going on. Yes, we are supporting, and Americans were supporting, Ukraine quite a lot. But there is a wrong understanding on the American side that their support was bigger than, for example, European Union support. I can tell you that European Union general support, military support, financial support to the budget, and humanitarian support was around 30% bigger than American support. Our support during those 3 years was around 130 billion euros, American 100, so not 500 or whatever we were hearing from President Trump sometimes. And military support was also very similar. If to calculate all the European support, it means not only European Union, but also Norway, Great Britain, so our numbers are very similar, around 60 billion during 3 years. So it's not small amount of money, but if you will calculate how much of support we were giving and Americans were giving per year, and you will compare that support with GDP of the countries of European Union, so you will see that both European Union support to Ukraine, military support, and American support to military support to Ukraine was below 0.1% of GDP. So it's not zero, but it's not also, what we should say is that we cannot increase our support. We can increase, and we need to increase because Ukraine is defending all of us. Oh, definitely, it defends, us Europeans, but also, in some way, not direct way, it defends also United States. Because if the West will fail in Ukraine, and Russia with its aggressive policy will win, then we can see very clearly what will be international consequences. I am absolutely sure that, for example, China is watching what is happening in Ukraine. And if China will make a conclusion that the West is weak politically, economically, we are much stronger than Russia, 10 times or even more, stronger than Russia. But if we are weak and we are not able to stop Russian aggression, in Ukraine, then China will make a conclusion that the West is so weak that China can start to behave, aggressively, either towards Taiwan or whatever, North Korea was sending their troops. Why? Not just because, Putin has a shortage of soldiers, after 3 years of the war, but also because North Korea is training their soldiers in the real military, experience. And for what they are training? Again, we can just guess. So to say that, okay, this is your business, Europe, you should take care about, Ukraine and we Americans are, staying outside, it's not most prudent decision.
Mr. Commissioner, thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. I see a very fidgety team of yours, waiting for you to finish the other businesses. Thank you very much for your sparing your time and your elaborate comments.
Thanks a lot.